Before we get into the video, link down below is a card, the Black Lives Matter card. It will lead you to various places to donate and lead you to various ways to help out. This is not something we can stop talking about. We have to keep talking about it. Share whatever resources you can, boost and uplift Black voices, and don't stop. Hello, welcome back to Stardust Reads. I'm Chris, and today I'm going to be reviewing Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. Before we get into the review, I need to acknowledge that I got an e-arc via NetGalley from the publisher in exchange for an honest review. Axiom's End is the debut sci-fi novel of author and video essayist Lindsay Ellis. It is the first novel in a 5-book series, and it follows Cora Sabino. Cora is a college-aged young woman who recently flunked out of college after some stuff that happened with her dad. Her father is a whistleblower. He currently lives in Germany because of persecution he faced from the United States government, and he leaked something known as the Fremda Memo. The Fremda Memo is this acknowledgement of aliens that was made by the U.S. government. She has to deal with the aftershocks of that, which includes not only public notoriety, but also the United States government keeping an eye on her and her family. After a tense encounter with the CIA, she ends up meeting a member of the alien race that is discussed in the Fremda Memo. She agrees to help him find the group of alien refugees known as the Fremda Group, if in exchange for him helping her find her family who have been taken into government custody. This review will have minor spoilers in regards to the relationships that develop throughout the book. I will try to avoid any major plot spoilers. I will do my best to just avoid the actual plot events altogether, or I will discuss them only in generalities. But this is your spoiler warning. You cannot complain about it in the comments. Now, I should acknowledge that I have been an avid viewer of Ellis's video essays for about 2 years now. I know next to nothing about Ellis outside of her video essay content. She's a very private individual. I do know the video essays she makes quite well. I've watched the majority of them more than once. I'm familiar with the arguments she makes, and I am familiar with the tropes and themes that she likes, at least what she presents in her video essays. And while this familiarity with her content gave me high hopes, because I do enjoy her content quite a bit, it also gave me the knowledge to sort of expect where the plot was going to go and anticipate certain beats that someone who is not familiar with her content might otherwise miss until they became more apparent. Okay, so I'm not going to be doing character analysis because I don't have much to say about the characters, but I am going to be doing a quick rundown of each of the characters I'm going to be discussing because I do not want to slow down the pace of the other sections of the video by explaining who these people are. I'd rather just do it up front here so you guys know who I'm talking about going in. Cora is the main character. She is the daughter of Niles Ortega and Demi Sabino. She's 21 if I recall correctly, and she flunked out of college. After a tense encounter with the CIA, she ends up running into Ampersand, the alien I mentioned in the summary, and agrees to become his interpreter in exchange for him helping her figure out what happened to her family. Ampersand is not a main character, but he is main character adjacent in my assessment of him. He is not the love interest. I swear this alien is not the love interest. He's a member of the alien species. He's a higher up in the society. He's very high up in the very hierarchical society that they live in, a step below the autocrat of the society. He's known as an oligarch. He's looking for the Fremda Group, which is the group of aliens that is discussed in the Fremda Memo. These are a group of refugees who fled the home planet after they were after an attempted genocide on them. He's a genetic member of the population, but he was not included in their escape and has been held captive by another alien race. And during those 40 years, the Fremda group has been under the protection of the United States government. Niall Ortega is Cora's father. He lives in Germany. He leaked the Fremda memo. He experienced persecution from the United States government due to his leaking of the memo. He has little to no relationship with his children and is overall painted as a not great guy. Demi Felix and Olive Sabino are Cora's mother and siblings respectively. Luciana Ortega is Cora's aunt and Niles' younger sister. She's also Demi's best friend. She was a government agent working for the organization that helped deal with the Fremda group. Sol Kaplan is a CIA agent that initially clashes with both Cora and Luciana at the start of the novel. To start off, I would like to talk about the utter lack of diversity in this book. I suppose utter lack is a bit of an overstatement, but it is not much of one. The book is incredibly white. All of the main characters and the characters we spend time with are either white or alien. A few characters of color are mentioned in passing, such as a black woman who we see a total of 2 times, and an Asian man that we see a total of, I think, 3 or 4 times. One of the scenes is his death. These are not characters we learn much about, and these are not characters that the narrative encourages us to care about whatsoever. There is one supporting character that is Jewish. This is Sol. He mentions he's Jewish in one scene he has with Cora. I'm not qualified to talk about the strength of the Jewish rep in him, but I would say that if it had not been for the scene where he explicitly states that he is Jewish, I would have not had any idea that he was Jewish. Cora is explicitly mentioned to be LGBT+. We're not given a specific label for her, but she does show attraction to men and women throughout the book. So I consider that rep, but that is the only rep that it has going for in that respect. I think that Ellis could have done a lot better here. This book is published by a Big 5 publisher. There could have been sensitivity readers. There could have been more rep, and there could have been sensitivity readers to make sure that rep was good. I just am very disappointed that they didn't do it, and I'm disappointed in Ellis for not including any of the rep in here. I'm hoping this will be rectified in the next 4 books, but I obviously have no guarantee that that is the case. Next, I'm going to be focusing on some technical details. This section is going to be about pacing, and the one after this is going to be about the technical writing of the book. Next, let's talk about the pacing of the book. It starts off slow. It takes care to establish the characters and their relationships as they are at the start of the novel, and also the aliens and their culture. It also takes time to establish what Cora's life is like before the actual events of the plot kick off. Because of how slow the start of the book was, it took me a bit longer than I would have liked to actually get into the book and start enjoying it. It felt largely like there were too few things happening in the book for how many pages there were in between them. A lot of the focus was on establishing world building, as I mentioned before, so we get a picture of the aliens, we get a picture of their culture and the nuances of their society, but we don't get much actual plot. I would say there are a few plot events sprinkled in, but a large portion of the start is dedicated to this establishing of the characters and of the world building. There's not much beyond that at the start, which is part of the reason it is so slow to me. We get that very quick establishment of Cora and Ampersand's relationship. But after that quick establishment, it stagnates at the friendly-ish professional relationship that they have not for, I would say, not like most of the book, but for the majority of the book, if that makes any sense. The pacing does eventually pick up. I'm not actually sure if the pacing itself picks up or if more interesting things just happened, but I would argue that is simply a matter of perception, and to me, the pacing felt slow, so that's what I'm gonna put in here, because this is my review. You can't stop me. Nonetheless, it did feel a lot faster once we got more build-up of Cora and Ampersand's relationship, and as it began to shift. The pacing also picked up once the antagonistic forces of the book became clear, and once the threats they posed became much more pressing in the narrative. On to the writing. Alice's writing style is what you would expect from watching her video essays, in my opinion. Her humor is there. It's the same type of humor you would find in her videos, and it shines through in the writing the same way it does in her videos. It's not overwhelming, but it is there. It is very much there. And it is very much something you can tell is there on purpose. I don't have anything big here to say other than that it is, to me at least, a book that is very obviously written by Lindsay Ellis, and your mileage is going to vary in regard to how you feel about that. Other than that, I don't think the writing is too notable as a whole. Other than that, the writing style isn't too notable. It is slightly more conversational than I would typically seek out. And again, there is Alice's humor that is sprinkled throughout. But it is a pretty standard writing style otherwise. But it is, as a whole, the sort of writing you would expect from a debut author. It is not yet its own thing, but it is still passable and engaging. On to the setting. The book is set in 2007. I think the setting really works for the book. The themes of the book are deeply rooted in the political disillusionment that was growing at the time, and also the economic struggles that were just on the cusp of happening. And while I do think this is very thematically relevant, it did not personally work for me. I say personally because I do think the time period is the correct choice for this book. I don't think the thematic weight would have been quite the same if it were set in the nebulous now. But personally, it didn't work for me. I am 19. My birthday is at the end of the year in November, and so for most of 2007 I was 6. I have a number of memories from 2007. I can remember stuff that happened, but it is all very hazy. I remember kindergarten. I remember I remember some stuff in 2008, notably the 2008 election. I remember a lot of stuff like that, but I don't really remember what it was like to have been alive in 2007, and so it led to this weird cognitive dissonance where I remembered some things, but I didn't remember enough. I, in fact, have no idea what the technology level was at the time, and it just led to a cognitive dissonance that took me out of the story more than I would care to admit. But this is very much a me thing. I think that people that are around 3 years older than me won't have any issue with this because it is rooted in my personal hazy memories of the time, and I don't think people younger than me who have no real memory of the time will have any issue with the time. Also, it is a very, very millennial novel. It is rooted in the generational struggles of the United States millennial. And well, I am not a millennial. I am a Zoomer. I was born in 2000. I'm Gen Z. And I cannot relate to these generational struggles of the millennial, because I would say that a key difference is that the millennials have memories of becoming disillusioned with the government. They have memories of the economic struggles of our current era beginning, but in my memory, these have just always been happening. I can barely recall a time before the 2008 election. I can barely remember a time before the 2008 financial crisis. This is just stuff I've been living with, and so that took a bit of the relatability from the characters away from me personally, but again, your mileage may vary. To the world building, obviously most of the world building is spent on the aliens. Since there is no new human society we have to learn, there is no new setting that we really have to take in beyond the time period. Most of the time is spent establishing the aliens and their culture, their society, their language, more than is spent on, and I mean, that is pretty much all of the world building that we need. It is less focused on the actual biology of the aliens. There's no discussion of chemical processes, or there's no real discussion of how the aliens come to be. We don't know anything about their natural environment. We don't really get any of that. It's focused mostly on their culture. There are brief conversations about their biology, such as the fact that they are post-natural, a term whose meaning I'm still not completely certain of. Much more of the page time is spent building their culture and the nuances of it and the stuff associated with that. Even then, we don't ever get a completely clear picture of their society. I would think this is a purposeful decision on Ellis's end to show just how incomprehensible and alien the society can be to our human minds and our human perception of society. There's a heavy focus on language and how the aliens use language in particular. They have 3 different types of languages, and these either used in different contexts depending on what is going on. There is the one such language, and the only one I'm going to be discussing is High language, which is something that can only happen between members of this species, and is their most intimate form of communication. It is not comprehensible to humans, really. Obviously, a human created it, so it's not completely incomprehensible to us, but it is outside the bounds of humanity, and it is never something that is explained to us. You just have to infer what it is. In my opinion, the careful way that language is used and crafted in regards to culture was very well done, and I applaud Ellis for doing so. There's also some discussion about how the alien society handles relationships. They're the type of relationship they have that does not track to human relationships whatsoever. It is described as dynamic fusion bonding, and it is said to be a form of non-monogamous pair bonding, and it encompasses so much more than just sexual or romantic relationships or even familial relationships. It's just this vague and all-encompassing thing that we don't get much details on in this book, but we're definitely getting more of it in the next book, so I'll leave it at that. But I did like how this relationship was handled. I love the ideas behind it, and I cannot wait for it to be explored more. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the relationships that are within this. This is the section where the spoilers are going to be coming in. There's going to be minor spoilers for every relationship in this book that is even minorly explored, so if you don't want that, I click off this video. I'm not going to be talking about anything else other than this for the rest of it. So the first relationship I'm going to be talking about is Korra and Ampersand. This is the relationship that is the most developed in the book. I can say that very confidently. Part of what I find so compelling about this relationship is that it is, in my opinion, a romantic relationship. It hits the same beats as a romantic relationship. The tension between them is very easily read as romantic tension, and I just adore that. Part of the reason I can so confidently sit here and say, yeah, this was probably a romantic relationship is my familiarity with Alice's video essay content, particularly her video essay, My Monster Boyfriend. This is where she talks in depth about relationships between human women and monsters, and she talks about the history of them in movies in particular, but she also talks about the appeal of them and why women can find them so appealing. And so that makes me feel very confident in my notion that Alice is building a romantic relationship here. I'm supposed to read this as a romantic relationship, and I hope that's where it's actually going. I'm very confident in that it's going in that direction. So if you don't like a human and human relationships, don't watch this video. I mean, don't read this book. That's what I meant. This will not be the book for you, and it probably won't. To get into the specifics of the relationship, the relationship starts with both of them being terrified of the other. So Ampersand has a perception of humanity that is less than ideal. He sees humanity as billions of violent, flesh-eating organisms, and obviously we can understand Korra's fear of him because he is described as utterly inhuman. He has no human features. I think her fear of him is more innate to us than his fear of us, so I'm not going to be spending too much time on that because I think we all understand. And so we see them stop fearing each other, we see them build trust, and we see them become more friendly with each other. And while their relationship does kind of breathe in this professional, friendly-ish relationship for a good chunk of the book, it does eventually build into a very, very, very close friendship that borders on romance. I'd say it's very mutual pining. And so they become closer and closer, and it culminates in a scene that is so tender that I thought I was reading a romance book for a while. So Korra is upset about something that happened, and Ampersand wants to take care of her. He wants to comfort her, and so she has to walk him through the steps of comforting a human, and she tells him where to touch her and how to touch her, and it's just one of the most tender things in the world, and I'm in awe of it. And we get a few more scenes like this. This is probably a plot spoiler, so this is probably a plot spoiler, so when I put my hand, so as long as I have my hand up, I'm going to be talking about that. We learn about a lie that Ampersand told Korra, and she gets very angry with him, and even when she's angry at him, she still cares about him, she still wants him to be safe, and I just love that. I love it so much. Well, there's also a scene towards the end where he holds Korra like she's the most important thing in his life, and it's just so good. It's so good. It's just perfection. Unfortunately, this is the only well-developed relationship in the book, and it is the only one that is actually explored. The next relationship is Korra and her mothers plus her siblings. Korra and her mother are established to have a very rocky relationship from the start of the book. But beyond learning that Demi is very judgy of Cora and that Cora disagrees with some of the stuff her mom does, this is not really explored, and even that little bit I mentioned is in the first few chapters and not anywhere. Demi, Cora's mother, is barely in the book. We don't see much of her, and we don't see much of the relationship, and it's not really shown or explored or explained how or when the relationship soured. I would have loved to see more of it, but there's 4 more books, so I'm hopeful that we'll get more, but I'm not certain. In regards to Cora, it is established that Cora is annoyed with her younger brother and that she is protective of her younger sister, but the emotions behind it are never really there. And they were never relationships that I personally got invested in. Next, we're going to be talking about Cora and Niles. While we never actually see Niles in the story, his relationship with Cora is probably the most developed of her relationships outside of her relationship with Ampersand. A very clear picture of their relationship is painted from the start. It is made clear that Niles uses his family to push his agenda, and it is unclear how much or if he cares about them at all. And this is established from the very start of the novel, and we see hints of it throughout as Niles' actions continue to affect him and his family, and we see a few of his emails that clarify his motivation. And it's also very clear how Cora feels about him. She hates him. She's very angry at him, but we also see the very complex ways that she still cares about him and she still loves him. It is no Burnout Bodies Down, but I still like the ways that this relationship was portrayed. Cora and Soul. I'm bringing up this relationship purely on the basis of it's completely undeveloped. Like, there's no development for this relationship whatsoever. So Cora and Soul start off hating each other, and it's a mutual hate. Like, they cannot stand each other, they don't get along. And at some point in the novel, it becomes what I would consider a very begrudging friendship, but it's not explored how we get to this point. We don't see how it becomes a begrudging friendship. We just jump from them hating each other to them kind of being friends, and I thought that was just incredibly unsatisfying, and I would have loved to have seen more development of their relationship in the actual book. Axiom's End is a promising debut novel and an even more promising start to a 5-book series. While I had my issues with the book, it was overall something I enjoyed, and it was a very fun reading experience. I am looking forward to seeing Ellis grow as a writer, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this series develops. That is all I have for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!